Committee.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Rhonda Shouse. I live in Marion. I am a Medicaid beneficiary myself. I have also been on the Mental Health Planning Council for almost 10 years. I've done a lot of advocacy work across the state. I also have a daughter who is a Medicaid beneficiary, a young adult. And for me, I'm here today because of Medicare, Medicaid managed care oversight. And to me, it boils down to trust at this point. Over the past year, Iowa has come to have a major trust problem with many of the 3 million residents. This is just one of several issues that has played a role in that lack of trust. When it comes to Medicaid managed care, we have talked about it for a year now. Money is important, and so are people. But those topics have not convinced legislators to protect Iowa from a likely rocky financial road and denials in services for those who need it most. Ultimately, oversight needs to be implemented because of a lack of trust and accountability that has been well earned over the last year. We have MCOs that have not had public trust from day one. MCOs that have had CEOs go to prison for fraud and have paid over $275 million in fines for fraud in other states. There are strong allegations in other states that they have denied services to beneficiaries, and rather than save the state's money, the costs have increased. We have a governor that has chose to bypass an entire branch of government to achieve this goal. We have government officials and employees of at least one MCO who have talked with each other during blackout periods. We've had state officials such as Governor Branstad, Chuck Palmer, and Mickey Steer that have not only lied to the public and the federal government about the readiness of the program, but they've sat before state legislators regularly with reports that do not match the realities of what are happening on the ground. We've been told for months the program is ready. The infamous line by Mickey Steer in February of "we were ready in January and we're even more ready now" was an outright lie. The outcry from beneficiaries, family members, providers, legislators, and the decision by CMS that Iowa was not ready in January or even in March demonstrates otherwise. The state still isn't ready, and the program is set to begin in 2 weeks. Yet the same mantra continues to be used despite evidence that says otherwise. Saying something repeatedly does not make it true. Iowans no longer trust the system or the people that are running it. We need legislators to restore integrity to state government, to look at the evidence in other states that have moved to Medicaid managed care. If nothing else, consider the possibility that common financial results in other states may happen in Iowa. We need them to step up and protect Iowans who are guilty of nothing other than having an illness, a disability, or being poor and needing health care to literally survive on a daily basis. Kansas is a state that many Iowans from the public and the legislators have pointed to as an example. It moved to Medicaid managed care 3 years ago, and the situation continues to become more dire each day. The state is hemorrhaging money, and people have died due to a lack of services. 2 of the MCOs selected by Iowa are major players in that program. Here are some excerpts of a recent article regarding Kansas' program. Some Kansas lawmakers admit it's difficult to make meaningful change on a large scale with 3 private insurance companies. Quote, we've taken a hands-off approach by contracting with the MCOs and letting them do what they do, said Kansas Senator Laura Kelly, a Democrat who sits on the CanCare Oversight Committee. That makes it very difficult for us to intervene on behalf of an individual who we can do it on a case-by-case basis, but not systematically. I would really encourage Iowa to have people who know Medicaid. Representative Barbara Bollinger, who is a Republican, said, for or against privatization, you need that. She has also said using for-profit companies to manage care may not be the most successful model to sustain quality care. There is no way to save money with these programs unless you absolutely deny entrance into the program, you cut back on services, or you pay the providers less. But for Iowa, she said, it is ultimately too late to heed Kelly's biggest piece of advice, which was to suggest Iowa not do it at all. So as far as oversight, Yesterday, Mickey Steyer presented a report that talks about all the ways Iowa will oversee the program. It includes DHS, IME, Department of Inspections and Appeals, Iowa Insurance Division, and the 3 MCOs. IME has already proven it cannot communicate clearly with any target audience regarding this issue. Yet we're expected to believe all of these departments will work together seamlessly. Oversight must be a standalone committee. We have to have people involved that understand all of Iowa's needs monitoring this program, not to micromanage the companies to the point that they don't make money, but to protect Iowa's financial interest and the health of over 500,000 Iowans. We aren't against the state saving money or companies even making money, but we have grave concerns about the methods that are going to be used to do so. Oversight must include providers, beneficiaries, and family members. We have beneficiaries and family members who have more working knowledge on this issue than many of the state legislators who are voting on it. I would put mine and Bill's knowledge on this subject against theirs on any given day. Some legislators have talked about using an existing committee such as MAC for oversight. I'm here to say this is not adequate. Medicaid is one of Iowa's top 2 expenditures and involves 1/5 of the population. That is something that should not be another agenda item for an already busy committee. That warrants a standalone oversight committee. We again are talking about trust and accountability. But let's look at MAC. The full council meets 2 times a year, and the executive council meets only 6 times a year. On iowa.gov, it shows there are 3 vacancies for terms that ended in 2013. But if you look at DHS's portion of that same website, it states there are 33 vacancies. Accurate, consistent information hasn't been the state's strong suit regarding managed care. But here's another of examples of how it is not, again. 2 state representatives in November asked the governor's office about these vacancies and was told the phrase "an equal number" referring to consumer groups was meant as a maximum, not actually to be equal. The legislators asked the Attorney General's office for an official opinion on the matter. It's the middle of March and we still have not received one. I have a friend who applied for the MAC in December and was told there were no vacancies until June. I applied in January. This is a government-appointed board, the same governor who says oversight is overkill. Excuse me. What information do we believe? We have 2 websites and a governor's office giving conflicting information. It comes back to trust and accountability. There is a sign on the wall outside the House chamber entrance that I found very interesting. It says, quote, "Courageous confidence in the intelligence of the community is a sure sign of leadership and success. The ideal state that in which an injury done to the least of its citizen is an injury done to all." I am here today to tell legislators in both the Senate and the House that the least of its citizens are and will encourage injury if strong oversight is not put into place regarding Medicaid managed care. And in closing, I want to point out a situation that occurred this week. Almost 7 years ago, Iowa had a moment where it should have served as a warning of what can and will happen when adequate health services are not available. Mark Becker, a young man with severe mental illness, shot and killed his coach due to a lack of treatment for his illness. This was a warning the state of Iowa did not heed. Iowa is now reliving this tragedy because apparently one tragedy was not enough for state officials to act. This week, I lost a friend, Jackie, and Iowa lost a true advocate when her son, who has severely mental illness, allegedly killed her and her mother. Jackie served on Iowa's Mental Health Planning Council, the Olmsted Task Force, the Iowa Disability and Aging Task Force, worked with NAMI of Iowa, and worked for the Office of Consumer Affairs. She had advocated for her son and others to get medical treatment they needed inside the state. This is not a woman who just didn't know how to access the services. Jackie knew every service the state offered inside and out, and the lack of services, service providers, and acute psychiatric beds in the state failed her. The closing of 2 of Iowa's MHIs last year as a cost-saving measure has helped facilitate this tragedy. I would like to remind you that legislators from both political parties and in both chambers worked overtime to try to provide funding for, if nothing else, an orderly transition in that closing. Governor Branstad vetoed that agreement among legislators and closed the MHIs without adequate transition plan. 3 people died within 2 months. Now we have another tragedy of epic proportions that could have been prevented with adequate services and medical treatment. I'm here today to implore you on behalf of Jackie and her son, who can't be here because they paid the ultimate price for Iowa's failure to provide services and a safety net. This is what you need to do to vote to provide that accountability and that safety net with a full Oversight Committee for Medicaid managed care. How many more lives must be lost? How many more families and communities must be devastated? How many more preventable tragedies must occur before Iowa officials step up and create a true safety net? Oversight is not about micromanaging. It is about creating accountability and reestablishing trust and integrity in state government. Thank you.